It started on an ordinary evening. She had gone out, saying it was just a few errands, that she'd be back before dinner. I waved her off, smiling politely, trusting the routine, not noticing the subtle tension I had ignored for weeks. I had no reason to suspect anything, at least not consciously, but something inside me had been simmering quietly, a mix of doubt, suspicion, and the quiet ache of realizing she had grown distant. Hours passed. I tidied up, made dinner for the kids, and waited, and waited, and waited. Eventually the night grew late, the house quiet, and she didn't return. I called, texted, no response. Her friends didn't know where she was. Her car was gone. I stayed up until the small hours, mind racing, trying to convince myself that she had a reason, an explanation, something that would make this feel like a mistake, a miscommunication. But deep down, I knew. The next morning, the reality hit. She wasn't coming back. Not that day, not that week, not for months. I packed my life quietly, taking the essentials for the kids and myself, leaving no chaos behind, no scene to fuel gossip or pity. I needed to disappear, not to punish her, not to escape pain, but to reclaim my life from someone who had already abandoned it emotionally, if not physically. I moved out that week. I changed my number, changed my address, and slowly built a life of my own. Friends helped. Work helped. The children, still young, adapted more easily than I expected, resilient in ways adults often forget to be. I created stability, calm, and quiet, far away from the woman who had treated our home and marriage like a revolving door, something to take for granted until the novelty wore off. For months, she tried. Calls went unanswered, messages ignored, visits unreturned. I stayed silent, distant, resolute. She didn't understand that the house wasn't empty because I was careless. It was empty because I had finally realized that sometimes leaving is the only way to protect yourself from someone who has already chosen someone else, or perhaps simply chosen selfishness over commitment. 10 months later, she showed up at my door. A tentative knock, hesitant footsteps, the voice she once knew, calling out in a mixture of fear and longing. I opened the door carefully, letting her see the life I had built without her. The house was full, not of the chaos she expected, but of calm. Photos on the walls showed the kids smiling, happy. The furniture, arranged differently, reflected care and thought. I was home, not just in the physical sense, but emotionally, mentally, completely. She froze. Her eyes widened. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. No words came. The panic was evident. She realized that the person she thought she had abandoned, the person she assumed would crumble or chase after her, had thrived, had rebuilt, had moved on. I didn't know, she stammered. I thought you'd, I thought. I let her fumble. I didn't interrupt, didn't scold, didn't cry. I simply stood there, calm and composed. The silence spoke louder than any argument ever could. She finally whispered, almost inaudibly, "How did you—" I smiled faintly. By accepting that some people aren't worth the energy it takes to convince them to love you back. By focusing on what matters, my kids, my life, my peace. By walking away before resentment destroyed everything. Her expression shifted through shock, regret, and disbelief. The realization dawned slowly. She had underestimated me. She had assumed absence meant weakness. She had thought betrayal would break me, not knowing that strength often comes quietly, behind closed doors, with patience, planning, and resolve. We spoke briefly that day. She apologized, tried to explain, tried to justify months of distance and disregard. I listened politely but didn't engage. Words couldn't erase the months of absence, the betrayal, or the clarity I had gained. My life was mine now. My dignity was intact. My children were safe and happy. And she had no place in the carefully constructed life I had built. She left that day, quietly, without protest. I didn't chase her. I didn't call. I didn't hope. I let the moment pass because the lesson had already been learned. Sometimes the most powerful action isn't confrontation, it's absence. Sometimes the most profound statement you can make isn't loud or dramatic. It's calm, steady, and completely irreversible. Looking back now, I understand the true weight of that empty house. It wasn't about punishment. It wasn't about revenge. It was about boundaries, clarity, and self-respect. Leaving her, disappearing from the life she took for granted, allowed me to rediscover myself. It allowed me to reclaim the love, respect, and peace I had been quietly sacrificing for someone who had already chosen to betray me. 10 months later, when she found out why the house was empty, she understood the consequences of her choices. She realized that betrayal isn't just about leaving. It's about underestimating the person you hurt. And sometimes the most enduring consequences aren't punishment. They're the quiet, undeniable fact that life continues without you. I didn't need closure from her. I didn't need recognition or gratitude. I only needed truth, and the empty house had spoken it all along.